morning, everybody. It's time for Living Low Sodium with Mary Schepp, your favorite host of all, right here on 21.6 The Net. And, of course, brought to you by the incredible, wonderful, fantastic support of Reese's Barkery and Patique, right there at 1313 Riverside Drive in McHenry, Illinois. You can find them at reesesbarkery.com, 815-363-7297. Thank you, Reese's Barkery and Patique. Today, Mary, you're talking about mother sauces.
Let's talk sauce.
Sauce.
It's not the first time we've talked sauce, but it's funny how many people are terrified to make sauce. And in their defense, there's a lot of stigmata because when you watch cooking shows, how many times have you watched a cooking show or one of those competitions or like Chopped or something? Like your sauce is totally broken. Still good. Cheese sauce that's broken might texturally be different.
It's going to be funky.
But it's still cheese. I still eat it.
Yeah.
I never care. It doesn't bother me. But obviously it can be a very daunting thing.
Do you ever just eat the cheese off the top of a pizza and then don't eat the rest of the pizza?
Yeah. Have you ever eaten the pizza without the cheese?
Yeah.
So sometimes when you order like takeout pizza, franchise style takeout pizza, it tends to be a bit on the greasy side.
Yeah.
So occasionally you just get over greased. So then I just eat the crust with the sauce and usually we get garlic and onions and sausage on our pizza.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, how do we go from sauces to? Well, I guess you can do a cheese sauce.
Well, we were talking about cheese and cheese sauce, and then
automatically
it just made me think.
Pizza.
Yeah, it just I actually did that the other day. I ate the cheese. I ate the toppings first, and then I ate the
crust on the bottom.
The crust on the bottom.
Roll it up like a little burrito.
But actually, no, I cut it up and dipped it in ranch.
Oh,
so
right. That makes it work too.
That's what I did. So, anyway, we digressed. I digressed.
We always
for you.
digress.
I digressed.
We should put this. We need to change the show to digressions.
Digressions with Mary Schepp. That would be an interesting show, wouldn't it?
Oh, I could talk about all sorts of things. It's funny that, speaking of digressions, we talk about zombie apocalypse all the time, and that's what I've called this whole pandemic from day one. Is just the zombie apocalypse. And now, as things progress and roll on and, evolve with this whole pandemic, the joke has become a little bit more almost tangibly real. And I laugh because it's like if the zombie apocalypse actually happens in this, let's go whole movie theater on this and say that this turns into some kind of variant that turns everybody into walking zombies and, we're fighting that battle. I look around and the amount of people that I personally know that would not survive is astounding.
Well, if
they
one of the
rules... They don't know how to cook for themselves. They don't know how to, they don't know how to nothing without a cell phone.
What was that movie, Zombieland? I can't remember the main kid's name, the actor, but with Woody Harrelson. Yeah. And the girls, one of the rules was cardio. I think that was like the first rule.
Cardio.
I'm out right there. Rule number one.
Mm.
I will.
But in that same movie, Bill Murray, who said, I don't have cardio, and he says, I use makeup for my advantage. If it wasn't for the fact that they shot him on accident. So hopefully you've seen this movie because otherwise there's spoilers.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, but that was an awesome.
It wasn't it. Of the zombie movies, that's my favorite.
Yeah. So did you see the second one?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. We've seen them all.
Yeah, those are my favorite. Now,
but that's the thing. Like you wouldn't. I mean, we're talking about making sauces, let alone sauces. The amount of people who flat out, if you don't have a Taco Bell to get your food from, or a mom or a dad to get your food from, and I know there's this whole generation right now of junior chefs, like everybody's kid. It seems like this entire younger group. They're all musicians. They all can sing. They all have a propensity towards cooking and culinary, and they all want to be the next Food Network star and all of this stuff, which is weird to me. Like, how is it that that's the focus?
I mean, food. I mean, look, we're talking about food. Food is what are the big three things?
Right.
Food's always right at the top.
Right.
That brings people together.
Right. Too bad it's not the health aspect of food. It's just the fat aspect of food.
Well, I mean,
the debauchery, let's
the
get
gluttony.
Together and have ice cream. Let's get together and have drinks. Let's get together and have fast food or fried food or dinners out.
I mean, everybody eats. So, it was funny because it was funny to me, probably no one else. At the parade for Fiesta Days, there was a group that came through. I'm sorry, folks, I don't remember the name of the group, but it had something to do with agriculture. And they had their tractors and they were coming through. And the little line that I had to read to announce the parade was, if you are a person who eats food, you are part of agriculture. So, by the very nature of the fact that every single person eats food to survive, you're part of agriculture. That's just how that works.
Yeah. And it's at the same time, especially now that I've been running this farm group, and helping with the farmers markets, how little people know about agriculture is astounding. Especially, I think the reason why I'm so shocked is because we live in a farming community. We don't, we're close to Chicago, obviously, but we're not in downtown Chicago.
No.
We live in a farming community. So the other day, having a conversation with my crew at work, and the common consensus was, well, there's no farms around here. What do you mean not around? Well, I mean, up north there is. By north, they meant, northern McHenry, up towards the Wisconsin border, like Stotties and, out towards Harvard. And that's what they meant. I'm like, Barrington is loaded with farms. Crystal Lake is loaded with farms. Cary is they're everywhere. What do you mean they're everywhere? They were thoroughly shocked as I started listing farms. Like, you think that we're this populous, like Chicago, where this little pocket in Crystal Lake continues through everything, and there's houses everywhere. There's a lot of farmland, and there's a lot of agriculture here.
Though people only really drive down the main strips, right. And until you leave going westward, the McHenry, Crystal Lake
they're hidden a little bit better, but
until you keep going west and or northwest up into Wisconsin, you don't visually see those, because if you just stay on 14, 176, 120, pretty much all that kind of stuff, 173,
right?
That's all you're going to see is city,
right? So it's really surprising to me, especially, and that's why I started helping out with our farmers market in town, and the amount of people who in our own town. And it's a pretty small town that we live in, but even those people that say, I completely didn't know we had a farmer's market. Almost every single one of our towns here in the area has a farmer's market.
Mm-hmm.
So other than, I think Mondays is the only day that we don't have a market in the area.
Really?
Every other day of the week, there's a market from Huntley, Harvard, Marengo, McHenry, Crystal Lake, Cary.
Yeah.
Palatine, Barrington, Arlington Heights, Mount Prospect. They all of us.
Yeah.
All the way down the strip. You can pretty much go to a farmer's market every single day of the week.
And now you get involved with the Cary farmer's market, right?
Yes, I'm involved with the Cary farmer's market.
So how many farmers are usually there? How many vendors are usually at that?
Ours is like 8 to 15. And then we just started getting food trucks, and then we got some ice cream trucks coming through, which everybody seems to love, the ice cream and food trucks, especially since we're next to a baseball field. My favorite part is because we're next to a baseball field. We also have bathrooms.
No, that's nice.
Which is a bonus. But the kids actually, I'm excited to have the ice cream trucks and stuff come through because they're going to, and it's not that it's a bad thing to be the ice cream truck that you see trolling around the neighborhoods. But it's not that kind of ice cream truck. These are like Julianne's ice cream truck. There's another one called Crunch and Cream or something, I think they're called. But there's quite a few of them that are absolutely fabulous, and they serve some pretty cool products. And so we're
Tony
excited
says the markets are great. Good morning, Tony. Oh, by the way, good morning, Hal. How you doing?
Morning, Dad.
So,
but yeah, that's the thing is.
What day is that one on?
The Cary Farmers Market's on Sundays at the Cary train station in their parking lot. So if anybody ever wants to actually meet me, you can come meet me down at the Cary Farmers Market on Sundays. Unless something crazy happens at my store and I have to work. But I've been there almost every single Sunday, and we're slowly growing, which has been fantastic. And we actually do continue through the winter. There's only a few of the markets that continue through the winter, and I believe that us and Cary and Woodstock are, I think, the only two. I could be very, very wrong on that. I don't know. I haven't read. All of us markets don't necessarily. We don't have a group meeting every week and discuss things. But I think the Woodstock and the Cary market are the only two that actually go inside for the winter.
Yeah, I don't know, because I don't think up in here in
McHenry, they don't.
They don't, and it's every Thursday night from 4 to 9.
Well, it's 4 to 7 is the market, and then 7 to 9 is the concert in the park at Pearl Street.
Right.
Yeah.
So, that's every Thursday.
Yep.
Pearl Street Market, and I think that ends in October, I think.
Yeah, I think theirs is the first week of October. Ours is the last week. They all pretty much end that last weekend in September or the first week in October, depending, just because of how cold it starts to get. And of course, what produce and all that stuff is available, and so on and so forth. So it varies, but in addition to the crafty items that you get at farmers markets and stuff, the predominant obviously is the fresh food. And slowly more and more people are realizing how much better it tastes. And then on top of that, speaking of zombie apocalypse, the disruption in the distribution chains, they've had to start sourcing more and more local because they don't have a choice. I mean, places like Taco Bell, who use fresh cut tomatoes, or Subway and all those places, even though they're these big giants, if they can't get fresh food for their fresh stuff, Taco Bell, they all have announcements on their websites that say, sorry if we ran out of stuff, there's distribution issues. And it's funny because as somebody who works in retail, I'm very well aware of the distribution issues. And it's hilarious to me when someone says that we have like a lumber shortage. There's no shortage of trees or lumber. There's an interruption in the distribution chain.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where you don't think about it until someone says something, and then you go, oh, I guess that makes sense. Like the coin shortage. They didn't just disappear. They didn't go away.
No.
The circle of which that normal progression of you get a $10 bill and you make change and you take that change and you deposit your change or you spend your change. And then as a retailer, I send that change to the bank to get more $10 bills. And that circle continues and continues. The same as with these distribution lines. If you have a container full of tomatoes that's going to Subway and it's stuck because there was a backlog because half the warehouse got sick or they had to shut it down to clean it for 2 days, the amount of backlog that being shut down for one, even as a store, even as a simple little store in Crystal Lake, if I had to shut down for 1 day, the backlog of work that creates. So now you have all these containers that are sitting there waiting to be processed. So they're not going to just build more containers. They got to wait until that gets to me and I empty out all the tomatoes and then I send that container to clean and then I send the container back to you to fill up with stuff and ship.
And or if those tomatoes in the meantime have rot head.
Right.
And then they got
Then
to
they gotta
clean
send
it all
more.
out anyway.
Right.
So, yeah.
And now they're no good. And now they've expired. And now they
Mhm.
got to. And when you think of perishables, you think of expiration dates. But people don't think about other things that are perishable to an extent, like the calendars that I get in my store. So if they're 6 months behind and those calendars are done as of January and they were supposed to ship to me by the time they get to me, and now you've only got a month left, essentially that's a perishable item. It's no, I can no
What are you
longer
gonna do
sell
with it?
something
Yeah.
that ended now.
Yeah. Hey, here's your 2021 calendar.
Right.
It arrived December 1st,
Right.
2021. Oh,
And that
let's
is
look at all the
exactly-
dates I didn't get to put something down on.
That is exactly. But that's the thing is, so all of these distribution chains have been so interrupted that these large places and even the local restaurants that rely on those larger food chains have had, which is, you know, great for some of these farms because they've had to start sourcing a little bit more local and farm to table and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, and it always fascinates me, those things. Like I always want to know. I want to know the why.
And the why is, I've seen some stuff, and it's been, I mean, it's very evident, and it's been confirmed that some people, like farmers, are being paid to kill crop.
Right.
And some oil distributors from their tankers are being paid to dump oil, like literally dump it on this gravel road, dump it here, dump it there. Don't deliver it to the refinery. We're going to pay you to dump it. We don't want it.
It's crazy.
Which is weird. Okay.
Well, the world works.
That's weird. Good morning, Cindy, by the way.
We are assholes by nature as a race of people.
Evidently. I mean, okay, well, and here's the thing. Excuse me. I don't remember where I saw this, but when you say we are assholes by nature as a race of people, there was somebody who did a whole bit about if aliens came,
right,
and said, "Hey, who's this Jesus guy y'all are talking about? What did he do that was so great?" He told us to be good to each other, be nice.
Right.
Wow, how long ago was that? Was this new for you or something? I mean, it was like 2,000 years ago. Seriously.
Yeah.
And no one since has said, "Yeah, you know what? You guys should be nice to each other."
Right.
Well, there was one guy.
There was that one guy long time ago.
Martin Luther King, and so whatever happened to these guys? Well, yeah, we're assholes.
Yeah, well, it comes down to the same as when I talk about, why don't we value our health? We don't put an importance on being healthy or eating healthy, or you put a predominance on laziness. It's this selfishness that is ingrained in all of us down to our core. Is that instinctual survival.
Right. Yeah.
That's it.
Exactly.
I personally need to wake up every day, and I need sustenance, and I need sleep, and I want to do what I enjoy. So whatever that enjoyment is what I'm going to do. It's a stretch to do anything outside of that. But then we're mad when we don't feel good, or things don't go our way, or someone dumps us for being an asshole. And it's like, well, maybe you should have thought about that. Like, you want to think about, or sure, if you're happy in the moment, living on ding dongs and ho hos and not moving and being a jerk to everybody, but then you're upset that you only live to be 30 years old and don't have a spouse or a family or anything else. Well, it's kind of on you. You didn't think about the longevity of that enjoyment.
Yeah.
And it was so astounding to me to see how little people know outside of their bubble, especially when we live in such a predominant farming community. because I had started what we originally started this show was sauces, and I had started trying to see if I could replicate my sauce without using San Marzano tomatoes, and I can't. I tried.
It's
It's
just what
good.
makes your sauce your sauce.
Well, it's not only my sauce; it's just in general, and it is 1,000 times better. It is leaps and bounds better when you use fresh ingredients. It is just not the same. It's very much like wine. You can't make certain wines anywhere but where they're, Bordeaux wines, or that's why they're called what they are, because they're made in the Bordeaux region, or they're made in the Cabernet. Like they're made in certain regions, and that terroir is what makes them taste the way they taste.
Yeah.
And it's the same with sourdough breads. If you have, or pizza places, for instance, when they make their bread and they make their crust, and that's why it's such a problem when they burn down, and why a lot of pizza places don't rebuild, because if their ovens go up in smoke, or their starter for their pizza crust goes up in smoke, that's their pizza.
Yeah.
And it does taste different. It does.
Well,
And
Mary
there's nothing to do
Catherine
about it.
even noticed a difference in the flavor of her absolute favorite pizza, which used to be, sorry, folks, that are there, Gino's, Gino's East. Her absolute favorite pizza in the world. Last couple times, she's like, yeah, they changed something.
Yep.
The crust isn't right. The flavor's different. It's just not.
And it could be anything. It could be anything from a friend of mine that used to run a pizza place. They discovered, when they imported flour from Italy for their pizza, they didn't have the same gluten issues. And I'm not talking somebody with celiac sprue. I'm talking somebody with, gluten sensitivities. And part of that was because of the way in which it's processed. Our flour here is predominantly so refined down. If you saw our baking show with Kim Nordine, who makes her own flour. She doesn't grow and she mills her own flour. Yeah. And we learned a little bit about the difference between store-bought processed flour, which essentially is just sawdust, because the germ, the oil, all of those parts of the flour are now gone. So you literally have like sawdust and gluten, which is, you wonder why we have a gluten intolerant society, because that's all it is if you have 100% and 20% is germ and 20% is oil and 20% is gluten and but you take everything away except the gluten, you're just eating gluten.
Yeah.
Whereas the Italian flours, it's much like if you go to Italy and have chicken, it is not like chicken here. They have truly free range birds. They're much skinnier. The chicken breast isn't, 16 pounds that'll feed a family of 4.
No.
I bought some the other day, and my husband looks at me and he's just like, how is that even possible? Like, how? It's.
Well, when you get an actual real
they're
chicken,
almost a pound a piece.
Yeah, the chickens are not, and never were, big.
They're not big boobied.
No,
they're not. Their legs were bigger than their boobs.
They were designed and engineered that way. Boobs. Yeah, so the great big full chickens we get now are bred on purpose that way. They're genetically modified, so you're eating, a creation, not an actual real, just a chicken. So,
and if you don't want to be disgusted by it, don't ever look up how chicken is raised.
Mary Catherine looked at that. There were a couple of shows, and she has a hard time eating meat now that still looks like it's actually meat.
Right.
Didn't bother me a bit. Put that chicken in my belly.
Yeah, I
had no problem with that whatsoever.
I don't have a problem.
It's what we do.
I don't have a problem eating meat. I have a problem with the disconnect between us and our food. it's one thing to understand that, we're at the top of the food chain and we're going to eat beef and whatever and pork and chicken and in a lot of societies, guinea pigs and horse meat and all this other stuff. The problem is when you know, the quality goes down so far and so many people don't realize that because that's all they've ever known.
Well, yeah.
So when you have millions of chickens in a dark tunnel because there's no point in having light in that tunnel or air conditioning or anything other than fans because it reduces how many die because they're only going to live to be 8 or 9 weeks old. Yeah. And then they'll be culled and they'll be whatevered and dispatched. And granted, those chickens don't know any different. They've never known. You didn't take them from, the lap of luxury and put them in a high tunnel.
No.
But it does affect the meat. It affects the taste of the meat. It affects the stress on the animal, which is why Wagyu beef is so unbelievably expensive because those cows are loved and petted and brushed and cleaned and they're, happy little critters all the way up till the end.
Oh yeah, but I mean the flavor.
it is melt in your mouth tasty.
Oh my gosh!
I've only had Wagyu once in Texas, and
it's a sad. I
wouldn't say it was worth the cost, but I will say that it was absolutely heavenly.
And I didn't have to pay for the Wagyu.
I was going to say if somebody bought it for me, I would most definitely.
Yeah, I did not have to pay for it. It was a treat. It really, truly was.
We just had
friggin' good
filet the other day, as a matter of fact, and it's funny because the reason I made it is because in my Facebook feed, one of my memories came up that I made a mushroom sauce for my steak because the steak that we had wasn't the greatest steak. It was just like a mediocre cut. And the best way to do something with that is to put a sauce on it. So I put an onion mushroom brown sauce on it, which was absolutely fabulous. I suppose we should actually talk about sauces.
We probably should, since we labeled the show, Mother Sauces, and it's now 7:27.
In my defense, I have a stack of notes. I literally, for those of you watching Facebook, I have every single episode, minus a couple, that we have our notes from doing the shows.
Yeah.
So because I wanted to revisit sauces, because I got a lot of questions, because I made I guess it'd be akin to a pomodoro sauce with beef added, because it's not really a bolognese, but I got a lot of questions about my sauces and how I make them and how do I find time and this, that, and the other. And they really don't take a whole lot of time. So I figured just an easy, quick reference, because I know sauces. I know what I'm talking about. I can talk about food indefinitely. Mm-hmm. But it's nice to have the notes so that Pete can know what the hell I'm talking about.
Yeah. And sometimes, put us back on track. Right. But this morning we've had no track whatsoever.
Because of the fact that of all of my episodes, the one episode that I don't have notes printed on is my sauces episode. Yeah.
So now on the note you did give me, though, which is a tiny note, but it's here. You've got, what is this? The word at the top, bechamel?
Bechamel
sauce. What is bechamel?
So a bechamel and a veloute, those two sauces are our mother sauces.
What does that mean? What is a mother sauce? How about back that up? Because I have no idea what that means. Mother sauce?
So in French cooking and culinary cooking and classic cooking, they have 5 mother sauces. And those are your typical bases that start just about every dish that has any kind of saucy type component.
Okay.
So like if you think of macaroni and cheese, that's a bechamel. It is
the cheese sauce.
Right.
Okay.
You take that milk, flour, and butter, and you essentially make a roux. It's just a really thick, pasty roux, and you add more milk till it's creamy, and then you top your cheese on top of it, and that essentially is your cheese sauce for your mac and cheese. So if you add other spices to that bechamel without adding cheese, you just have another cream sauce. So if you added some pepper and some red pepper flake and some, bacon or sausage grease, then suddenly you have a sausage gravy, which everybody knows in the South. So most white gravies or white sauces and stuff like that start with that bechamel. So it's just funny because a bechamel and a velouté are essentially the same thing, except one is the bechamel is flour and butter, and then you add milk. So you start with a roux and go on that way. Where a velouté is more of a stock, like chicken, fish, or beef, and then you add a roux to thicken it. So they're essentially a similar sauce, but a means to a different end. So a bechamel is usually like your white gravy for your biscuits and gravy
and such. Okay.
And then the velouté is typically like your gravy that you'd see on mashed potatoes or turkey or whatever like that. Or that would be considered what I put on my steak the other day, or that reminded me to make steak, was that mushroom sauce is making that kind of thick brownish or light brown gravy for my mushrooms.
Okay.
So it's always, I never realized how much I made mother sauces until I started learning about the food that I was cooking. Because outside of those, you have a hollandaise sauce. I never pronounce it right, so I always just call it a brown sauce, which is just your basic brown stock thickened with a roux, very similar to a velouté. So they're all pretty similar. Most of them are thickened with flour or some sort of starch, with the exception of tomato sauce.
Now, what exactly is though hollandaise? Because I've only ever had, because I'm not a big fan of, what does that go on? Like usually Eggs Benedict or something like that.
Yep.
I'm not a huge fan of Eggs Benedict. I know my father-in-law loves Eggs Benedict. I maybe had it 2 or 3 times in my life, but what exactly is a hollandaise?
It's clarified butter and egg yolks.
That's it?
I mean, so when you talk about breaking a sauce, a hollandaise sauce is one that you typically will break. Because
what does that mean?
when you break a sauce, is because it's kind of like a vinegar and milk. If you pour acid in milk, it's going to curdle.
Yeah. Okay.
If you pour hot liquid into beaten eggs, they're going to turn into scrambled eggs.
Right.
So you have to temper it. Tempering chocolate, tempering anything else. You have to bring those temperatures together at a slow pace so you don't cook one before it's time.
Gotcha. Okay.
The same thing happens with salad dressings, where a salad dressing will do the same thing. It'll break. So if you have a vinaigrette or an Italian salad dressing in your refrigerator and it splits, so the top half is oil and the bottom half is all your spices and stuff, and you got to shake it up, it's because it didn't emulsify. And that same process with salad dressings is very similar to what happens in a sauce. If you don't mix it in a certain way so that everything binds together and creates this nice smooth texture, now much like a salad dressing, if you shake it up, it still tastes yummy like a salad dressing and you just don't care. Hollandaise is a little bit harder to bring back from the brink if you break it, especially if you've cooked the eggs, but that's why it's not that it's necessarily bad tasting, but if you're expecting a hollandaise that's smooth and creamy and you essentially have some weird seasoned scrambled eggs, that's not what you were looking for.
No. Yeah.
So
okay.
Obviously, if you're paying top dollar for hollandaise and someone serves you something chunky with chunks of egg in it,
you're going to be like, what the hell is this? This is
like you need to be a little bit more.
It's like watery scrambled eggs.
Right. But that's all it is it's you essentially are whipping eggs, and then you slowly add that clarified butter, and that fat and that egg yolk turns into it's almost very similar to mayonnaise, because that's exactly what you do to mayonnaise. It's just it's much kind of like cream and milk.
Yeah.
If you churn it, eventually, you go from milk to cream to butter, or to ice cream and to butter, depending on how you add things and do whatever. So it's just, how far you take something will determine what your end product is.
That's interesting.
I found a lot of cheats for my sauces. There used to be, I shouldn't say used to be, she's still around. Sandra Lee used to have a show called Semi Homemade. And I have a propensity to do the same thing, but use more. She would use a lot of, like the Lipton onion soup mix packets, and that's why it was semi homemade.
Yeah.
You'd get these fancy things, but she would use something out of a box to make, which was great. And I used to do that, but now that I try and find all these natural ways, so like the bechamel sauce,
Yeah.
I have discovered that if you take evaporated milk with noodles, the starch from cooking the noodles, if you don't 100, like when you drain your pasta noodles, if you leave a little bit of that water in there with the starch, and then a can of evaporated milk, not sweetened condensed milk, because that will make your macaroni and cheese taste like a dessert, which is really gross.
Yeah.
I may have done that once. I didn't pay attention to the can in my pantry, and I opened them because they look the same. They're both the same.
Oh, yeah.
One is made for, it's sweetened, so it's literally sugar. It's like really super
milky
thick coffee
sugar.
creamer.
Yeah.
And the other one is just evaporated milk. But it's a very good thickening agent. So that one little can of evaporated milk with some pasta and then some spice and a bunch of cheese, it doesn't reheat pretty. It tastes good. My husband eats it all the time after it's been reheated. But in the moment for dinner right now, to throw that in a pan, add some broccoli and some chicken, and it's a very super easy 10-minute one-pot dish that I don't have to mess around with worrying about whether or not I broke a roux to make a bechamel sauce. So I'm all for the cheats if I can find them, because
there you go.
I, as much as I'd like to think I have time in the day to do things, I may be a little overbooked.
Oh, you think?
Maybe a little bit?
I mean, outside of doing this show, which the prep takes, there's a lot of prep that goes into doing a 1-hour show once a week. You still have basically a whole 12-hour a day job career outside of this. So
yeah, and of course we're trying to write a book.
Yeah,
we're trying. If I would stop formatting it wrong. But this is why people pay $5,000 for an editor, or they pay thousands of dollars for a ghostwriter, or they pay hundreds of dollars for proofreaders and hundreds and thousands of, for photo editing and all of these different things. Because, and yes, I mean, there's a lot of people who put out cookbooks, or there's a lot of like the mom and pop, they have the little farmers market cookbooks and stuff that people print in my store all the time. I'm trying to put out an actual book, like where it looks like a nice book, not to discredit any of those people that print spiral bound recipe books, but I'm really trying to put out something that's absolutely fabulous that I can be proud of. So it's taking a lot of time.
Yeah, it's a lot of work if you've not done it before. And now here's a nice thing, and I don't know if you've gone on there yet. And everybody goes, Amazon actually does provide, especially if you're a brand new author and you've not got a publisher, you've not got a editor, you've not got a ghostwriter. Amazon does give you some really nice basics to help you put things in a proper format. And then once it's all done, you can make it, just like a digital reader, like for Kindle or whatever, or you can do the print version. But it takes a long time to learn it. It's not necessarily super user friendly, but it's there. And Ghost, I don't mind Ghost. I'd only do 1 or 2 projects a year, but it's a doggone good way to get paid to write if you like to write.
Right.
And good morning, Mbanwi. During I just like Cameroon. Yeah, Cameroon. Good morning.
I remember because it makes me think of the cookies.
Yeah, that's right. So Mbamwe all the way from Cameroon, listening to us right here in Chicagoland, Illinois, USA. So there you go.
So it's funny because the whole reason I got to thinking about my sauces is I made bucatini the other day. And it's funny because I wonder if people in France or Italy just look at us like we're morons.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
Because
But that's the French and the Italians.
right. But I'm sure that there's stuff that we do that whatever, maybe sound fancy. But it's so funny that when you say, I made bucatini pomodoro, and it sounds so fancy.
So fancy.
And it literally is spaghetti with a tomato sauce.
Yeah.
That's it. That's
well, I mean, next time I'm going to order biscuits and bechamel, please.
Right? Like a spicy bechamel, please.
Yeah.
Well, that's Kim Nordine a while ago sent a message, and she posted that she made Harry Cotverts.
Harry Cotverts?
And I was dying laughing because with the whole pandemic thing and everything, and disruptions in food chains and all this stuff. So she bought frozen vegetables. And it's just a mixed bag of frozen vegetables, like your standard beans and corn and peas, whatever. But she's screenshotted a picture of the package. Says, "What the hell are Harry Cotverts?" So I said, "You should steal my Pommes Goat recipe to serve with that." So I sent her a private message. I said, "It's haricots verts. It's French for green bean."
Haricots verts.
That's
Harry
it.
Cotverts. Haricots verts.
The way it's spelled, because it's French.
Yeah.
So in Pommes Goat is just a French, super, super cheesy, creamy mashed potatoes that pour out of a pan like gravy. And it's just potatoes and cheese. Yeah. But it's the way you make it that makes it that way. And it's the time and care that goes into those things. But that's it. It's just French green beans. So it's the same with bucatini. It's just a type of pasta. So it looks like spaghetti, but it's a straw. So there's a hole through the spaghetti.
Oh.
It's really tiny, but because of that, it soaks up the sauce. Gotcha. So the pasta itself actually like absorbs and soaks up, and it tastes all the way through and through like your sauce. So it's
sort of like mustacholi.
Similar.
But mustacholi's got a big hole in the middle.
And it's got the ridges and all that stuff that grabs that sauce. So that's why I love it, because it's thick but not too thick. And because of that tube inside the pasta, it just sucks up all of that sauce the second you put it in the pan. And a pomodoro sauce, I think I might actually have my notes here for that one, just because every time I try and read it, I know how to make it. But when I go to actually tell you how to make it, I always forget. You think I would be better at this, and no, I don't. Because I got 9,000 notes, and none of them are the right ones.
What is a pomodoro?
It's just tomatoes.
Oh,
tomato sauce. It's how I make my, whatever you want to call it. You want to call it a pomodoro sauce. You want to call it a spaghetti sauce. You want to call it a pasta sauce, tomato sauce, whatever you want to. My go-to when I make pasta and want a red sauce is I hit my microphone and it vibrates all over the place.
And it snapped out in everybody's ears. Just
Pete Death, because he's the one with the headphones on.
Yeah.
Chopped up onions, sauteed in clarified butter, because clarified butter has a beautiful nutty taste. Now, ingredients make a difference. Someone had posted about angel food cake that they made, and it was like biscotti. It was this biscotti. It was like this thick, hard, whatever, because they used all-purpose flour.
Oh, well, yeah, you can't.
You need to use cake flour for that. You have to have, and it's the same with anything else. It doesn't mean that you can't use olive oil or something else of that nature, but it's going to taste different.
Yeah.
So when you saute onions in clarified butter, the flavor that you get, especially if you can't have salt, and pay attention to your clarified butter, because if they use salted butter to clarify, and then you're going to have whatever. Now, no matter what, everything predominantly has salt in it. It just does. So even cream, if you eat enough of it, so the package might say that it's 0 milligrams because the serving size is a tablespoon. So that's true. But if you put half a cup of cream in your coffee or your sauce or whatever, then it has sodium in it. The same with butter and anything else. If you're going to use a ton of it, it's going to have sodium, because by nature it comes from cream, and cream has sodium. But tablespoon or two of clarified butter. I do an entire sweet onion for my tomato sauce. Saute it till it's nice and golden brown. I personally put 3 garlic cloves because I like garlic, and I don't know why any recipe would ever call for a single garlic clove, because that's just wrong on so many levels. Chop it up, microplane it, smash it, whatever you want to do. Doesn't really make a whole hill of beans. If you don't like a big chunk of garlic in your sauce, then microplane it. If you don't care, then do as I do and just smash it and throw it in there. We will literally eat cooked garlic cloves whole in my house, so it doesn't matter to us. I buy the little 4 packs of 5-ounce wine bottles, not because I like to drink them. Obviously, I can't because I have liver disease, but it's the perfect vessel because I don't have to measure it. Crack a bottle, dump it in there, and once it reduces until it's almost gone, I'm ready for my next step. So it's that easy where I can just do butter, onions, garlic, let it cook, dump the wine in, let that simmer until it's almost gone, literally almost no more liquid in the pan. And then if I'm going to add a protein like a beef or a veal or venison or bison, all of them are fantastic options. Pork, add that. And then I personally like either the Dax Greek blend or the Lighthouse Italian dried freeze-dried herbs, because it's the easiest one to use. And if you follow my page or my website, you can see links for those all over the place.
Yep.
And then once the meat is almost cooked but not completely is when a single can, you can buy them at most groceries. I typically, if I can, get the Cento brand San Marzano tomatoes. Dump the whole can in, smash them up, and if you need a saucier sauce, add water until it's as saucy as you want it. If you like some spice, add some red pepper flake, but that's it. In the Cento, if you ever pay attention to like Beat Bobby Flay or any of those cooking shows, a lot of times when they grab a can of whole steamed plum tomatoes, that's what they are, is Cento San Marzano tomatoes. And they do have, most of them do have sodium. They have salt added, but it's such a minimal amount. It's literally just to boost the flavor a slight bit. So it's typically, 45 or maybe 50 milligrams a serving, which is very doable considering most spaghetti sauces are 300 to 700 milligrams per serving. And you're significantly reducing that by making it yourself. So all of that process, the time it takes to make that sauce is the same amount of time it takes to bring water to boil and cook your noodles.
Well, that's easier than you would think, or easier than I would think.
Right. Well, if it takes 10 minutes to boil the water and 10 minutes to cook the noodles out of a package, regardless of which noodles you get. So if they're angel hair, it's going to be 4 minutes. If it's, bucatini or mastacholi that's thicker, it's going to be 8 to 10 minutes. So the time that it takes to literally boil water and cook pasta is the same amount of time it takes to saute some onions and garlic, reduce wine, add some tomatoes and some herbs, and boom. I personally, like the picture that I showed for today's event is the sauce I made the other day. I grow herbs, so it's very easy for me to throw in some fresh thyme and basil because it's in a pot right outside my kitchen window. So I can do that.
Okay.
But that's the thing, is so many people think that it's so complicated because you have this vision in your head of, grandma's sauce. And I'm not saying that those aren't incredible. And they're two different animals. They taste different. See, that's my sauce.
Okay. Well, we'll pop it up here in a second.
Pete's showing me my sauce, but he doesn't have it on the screen yet if you're watching the thing. So I'm not saying that you can't, that my sauce is the same as some Italian grandmother, Greek grandmother's sauce that's been stewing on a pot for 3 days. They're different beasts. And there's a reason for both of them. And I still make, like, my bolognese is an all day process. It's not a 5-minute process. It's not a, Tuesday night dinner kind of thing. I'm going to make this on a Sunday, or I'm going to make this on a day off. And I make a huge vat of it. And it makes all, like my husband I should probably make that today. As a matter of fact, he loves when I make my bolognese because it makes 3 trays of lasagna, stuffed shells. I take bell peppers, and cut them in half, top to bottom, so you get 2, and then mix my bolognese with orzo and cheese and stuff the peppers, and wrap them in tin foil and put them in the freezer. So if I'm not home, he can either take that whole tinfoil thing and just put it in the oven and bake it, or he can put it in the microwave with a little bit of water in the bottom of the thing and microwave it. And either way, he has a fresh homemade stuffed bell pepper.
Yeah.
In a matter of a few minutes.
And I love stuffed bell peppers. I really do. In fact, Mary Catherine will make them every great once in a while. Not lately, because usually she'll put beef in them.
I was going to say, I'd have to make one without beef I can bring them for you.
Yeah, because I can't do the beef anymore. I just can't. It just sucks, but oh well.
Yeah, I mean, gout does not play nice with proteins.
Nope.
Like that at all.
Nope, it does not.
So,
hence the veggies in the trays.
It's like some torture device for you. The veggies in the trays, they're in my dreams.
They're in my fridge right now. But I have been eating them. And no chips, no dip, no Twinkies, no Ho-Hos, no Ding Dongs, no Suzy Q's. It's been.
I'm surprised you're not having psychotic episode fits over here.
Well, I mean, we might get there, but it's been carrots and snow peas and broccoli and cauliflower. Oh, I did have some black olives. I like those. I like black olives. I don't know if that counts as a vegetable. I really don't know what an olive is.
I think they're a fruit. I think. Don't quote me.
Well, they're a savory fruit.
I'm only 20 ounces into
I do like black olives. I do. And green olives are all right, but I prefer the black olives.
I don't. I really can't.
And I've had carrots. Well, I said carrots, but peas, no peas. People were out of peas. That was weird. That was a weird thing for people to be out of, to me.
Yeah, olives are fruits.
Olives are fruits. Well, there we go. I've been eating fruit as well. Olives.
It's a combination of. It's funny the thing.
I ate an apple yesterday too.
I love how surprised, shocked you are. Like, I ate a carrot.
Well, these are not things I do. But I did actually eat an apple yesterday. I ate a Honey Crisp apple. That was actually my friggin' dessert yesterday for dinner.
My dessert,
Honey Crisp apple.
I am not ashamed to say I cheated on Julianne's because it's 2 minutes from my house, and I had Culver's ice cream last night. They have I forget what it's called. It's got some weird name, but it's essentially chocolate ice cream with Oreo cookies inside.
Well, that sounds like a good
thing. And since I'm an Oreo cookie junkie, I may have eaten half a pint or so, but it was really good.
Sounds good.
I might be paying for it today, but I don't care. It was really, really tasty, and I needed an ice cream yesterday. It's been a rough few weeks between our sister store that had closed, so the traffic is increasing at my store, and the fact that it is absolutely impossible to find somebody to hire. And subsequently, because of that same thing with finding people to hire for my own store, as a general manager, if something happened, my team would be there for me. I know that I work for a corporation, but I have to say, as far as corporations go, mine is really good to me. And my team of peers that I work with is absolutely phenomenal. So subsequently next week, I get to spend 2 days in a different store.
Wow.
Because they're having the same problem I am having as far as hiring people, but they're a much larger scale because of how close they are in proximity to the city which means when you're a block away from a district that pays much, much more because of their minimum wage requirements, it makes it very difficult for the people on the other side of that street to do whatever. So it's been exhausting few weeks for me.
But people are having that problem all over the place.
They are.
Immediately after this, we do a thing here at the station for a staffing company where we do 5 days a week. We do a live stream on what jobs they have open.
And there's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them. And I'm glad that it's working for them. But there are jobs that are literally entry level, no experience required whatsoever, none, zilch, zippo.
Yep.
If you can stand up, breathe, and have some basic English language skills, you can qualify for these jobs. And they're starting anywhere between $14 to $18 per hour.
Right.
And they're having a hard time. I mean, it just blows my mind that we're having that hard a time.
So what I've discovered,
finding people for
and this is just my opinion and my 2 cents. Something that I've discovered is the 17 to like 25, 26-year-olds that are going for these entry level positions, where you or I would have started out, bussing tables, then waitressing, then moving out into the world, or cashiering, or doing whatever.
Yeah.
Those positions that, all those entry level spots, the younger generation, their entry level spots are, making $300 a video to edit YouTube videos. So the ones that are smart are taking a completely different path.
Yeah, they really are.
The ones that aren't smart enough, or I shouldn't say smart enough, because I'm not saying
haven't learned the skill.
The ones that aren't in that path, that are on a different path, they're more of what you would consider somebody of the trades. The problem is they don't want to do hard work.
No, and that's the thing. A lot of these jobs are hard work.
There's no one applying.
Manufacturing oriented. They're general labor oriented.
Yep.
And there's a company up in Darien, Wisconsin, that will pay people $15.85 per hour to learn how to weld.
Yeah.
You don't have to know anything about it. You show up.
Same with the CNC machines and stuff like that. It's almost $20 an hour just to learn how to do it. Yeah. And then you pay more as it goes. Yeah. Not that it's easy work. It's grueling work.
No, it's not. Yeah. It's not easy. It's not. Yeah. But anyway, we digressed.
It's the same as the chefs and the food and the restaurants. They're the impossibility of finding, and that by nature has always been a very difficult job. To be a chef or a cook or whatever, because you work long, hot, unforgiving hours in those professions. So it's all over the place.
You do.
And
we have like 2 minutes here, less than 2 minutes actually. So just as a reminder, Risa's Barkery and Politique is a wonderful and proud supporter of Living Low Sodium with Mary Schepp. Risa'sBarkery.com, 815-363-7297. And Mary, where are they going to find you?
MyLoSoLifestyle.com, My LoSo Lifestyle Facebook and YouTube. I am now also on Podbean as a podcast. I'm slowly loading all of my old recipes, my old shows. And then we finally figured out that my email is mary@mylosolifestyle.com. It took me a while to figure it out.
There you go.
I had my servers loaded wrong and it was forwarding so I could send out and it wasn't coming back to the right message. So I finally fixed my server platform. So I'm actually getting my emails again, which is nice. And then, of course, if you're ever bored and want to come down to Cary, if you're here locally, and visit me at the farmer's market, I'm there every Sunday from 9 to 1. Next week, I think that we're going to revisit some soups, only because I'm making a soup. So I think in addition to making a soup, I'm also going to bring you some stuffed peppers without beef in them to see how you like them.
Woohoo. All right. Stuffed peppers and soup next week, Thursday, on Living Low Sodium with Mary Schepp.
If anybody wants to crash my show.
We'll see y'all then.